in the study groups, so patiently coordinated by Krishnan uncle and Amma today. So my pranams to all of you. With your blessings, I will start the talk. अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa always gave this analogy, right, that a child holds on to a pillar and goes round and round it, right? It is not scared that it will fall off. That is because it's holding on to the pillar. There is a alambanam that is available, right? Similarly, we need one alambanam. And who is that alambanam for us? I can tell you that the only alambanam available for us is our Sadguru, right? Without a guru, we cannot make any spiritual progress, right? So let us understand this a little more deeper by delving into some of the real life stories of Sant, right? I want to take the example of one of the incidents that happened in Namdev Maharaj's Charitram. Namdev Maharaj, as you all know, is a Maharashtra saint. He lived in Pandharpur and he had this personal connect with Lord Vittal. Vittal would come and stand in front of him and talk to him. We all know about that story where he decided to give up his life because Vittal would not come and accept his, Nevedhyam, right? From then on, he had a very personal connect with Vittal. Whether it was a good episode or a bad experience, he would go and narrate everything to Vittal. That was his relationship. One day he went to Sant Gorakumbha's house. There many saints across Maharashtra were there, present there, including Sant Nivrittinath Maharaj and Jnaneshwar Maharaj were also present there. Muktai was about 6-7 years old girl, right? She is believed to be Shakti's avatar, and her brothers are Sant Nivrittinath, who is Shiva's incarnate, and Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj, who is Vishnu Cha avatar, right? So she decided to test everybody who were assembled there. So she picked up the stick. Gorakumbha is the potter saint, right? She picked up the stick that the potter uses to test the pots, whether they are baked properly, right? So she took that and she started eating on everybody's head. And all the saints didn't react negatively or anything, right? Including Nivrittinath Maharaj and Jnaneshwar Maharaj just smiled because they are all at a different level, right? So she continued doing this and she reached Namdev Maharaj. Namdev Maharaj was sitting, he was a small boy. He was sitting there and she went to hit on his head and he backed away. He said, no, you can't do this to me. He felt very insulted. He said, why is she checking? Why am I baked or not baked, or I'm spiritually evolved or not, right? It was very low for him to even think that someone would question him like that. He was someone who was talking to Vittal daily, on a daily basis, right? And he would say, Vittal, come here, Vittal would come. That was his influence on God, right? And how is it that I am not evolved? So he goes crying to Pandharpur. Back to Pandharpur, he goes to the temple, he goes to Vittal and he says, this happened to me. Can you imagine? Why would they do this to me? Why should I be put through this experience? And he started crying. And Panduranga knows why it happened, right? So he tried to kind of take him away from that subject, but Namdev was holding on to that subject because it was something that hurt him very badly. So Vittal then says, okay Nama, what Muktai did is correct, what she said is correct, you are not yet evolved. And that was a shock for Namdev Maharaj to hear, because all along he thought that he was spiritually evolved and he was one of the great bhaktas, devotees of Vittal. So then he says, the only person, you're a great devotee, but the only person who can spiritually help you to evolve is a Sadguru. So you go find your Sadguru, he says. And rest is history. He went and found a Sadguru and he became one of the greatest saints of Maharashtra. So this brings us to the current topic, right? Srimad Bhagavad Gita. How did the Srimad Bhagavad Gita come to all of us? It came through Sri Krishna. And when did it happen? Arjuna was standing in the war field, right? Looking at all his bandhus. And especially when he saw his guru and Bhishma Pitamaha, he could not accept the thing that he is going to be fighting his own loved people. And he put down his weapon and he said, no, this war is not correct. We should not be fighting this war. For a piece of land, why should I kill my own bandhus? Where is dharma? And if you actually read Arjuna Vishada Yoga, you'll be convinced with all the explanation that Arjuna gave. And then, of course, Krishna was very quiet, listening, let him rant. It is his time to rant, let him rant. But when the time comes, I will reveal the knowledge. When did Krishna reveal the knowledge? He gave this knowledge when Arjuna surrendered to him. He said, Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha prichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha yashreyasyam nishchitam bruhi tanme Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Arjuna said, I am mohagrast. I know I am deluded. I don't know what is right, what is wrong. Give me that one path which I should be walking in, right? Which is right for me. I surrender to you. You are my guru. The moment he said, I surrender to you, you are my guru. Till then, who was Krishna to him? He was a friend. He was someone he would fight with. He was his uncle. There were multiple relationships for Arjuna. He never looked at him as a guru or someone who is the Lord. But at that point, he knew the only person who could redeem him from that situation was Krishna. So he surrendered. And that's when Bhagavad Gita flowed from Bhagavan's own mouth to all of us. And because of Arjuna, today all of us have Bhagavad Gita. So we were established, right? All of us have no doubt that Guru is very, very important in our life. So let's go to the topic that I have taken today. This is from Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, chapter 4, verse 34. Tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadeshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. What does this say? Simple meaning is that know that by prostration, by sincere surrendering, by asking questions, you will be able to gain knowledge from your guru. Okay, so there are two things that we have to focus in this sloka. One is seva and the other is surrender. So we'll delve a little more into that. Even in, if you see chapter 9, Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga also, Bhagavan says, Satatam kirtayanto mam, yatantascha dradavrataha, upadesha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate, he says. Where he says, my devotees are constantly thinking about me. Their mind is always in me, right? Thinking about me and singing about me, talking about me. Even when they talk, sons and all, when they talk amongst themselves, they are not gossiping, right? They are talking about Bhagavan and the experiences that they get, with Bhagavan, right? So he says, my devotees are, it's a Bhakta Lakshana that Bhagavan says there, right? They are constantly in my devotion and they are completely surrendered. There's no ego for them. They only know me. That is Bhakta Lakshana. Okay, so there, and a warrior like Arjuna, right, he also goes to that level. He surrenders to the Lord and gives up his ego. Otherwise, Arjuna was known to have a very big ego. He is one of the best warriors we have known. I don't think there's anybody else, even till today, who can be compared with Arjuna. Right? So, so again, that also points us to the point that Namasantaha, the spirit of surrender, is very important. Okay, so Tadvitti Pranipatena, if I have to delve a little more into this, I am taking the help of Jnaneshwari. It is a Marathi commentary on Srimad Bhagavad Gita written by Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj. He was Vishnucha avatar. He was none other than Sri Krishna himself. And if we read Jnaneshwari, we not only get answers to all the verses that were written by or spoken by Sri Krishna, we also understand the emotions that Sri Krishna felt for Arjuna, the emotions that Dhritarashtra went through, the emotions that Arjuna went through. So he explains all that in Jnaneshwari. So 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, Jnaneshwar Maharaj wrote 9,048 OVs. Okay, OVs is nothing but a meter. Like we have Chandas, right, in Sanskrit. It's the same in Marathi. Okay, so I'm going to be taking help of that. In 4 OVs, he has explained this sloka beautifully. So we will just delve a little into that. Te jnana paiga barave, zari mani ati anave, tari santaya bajave, sarvasvesi. He says, if one truly desires to attain the supreme knowledge, then one must worship and serve the saints. Again, here saints can be alternatively used with Guru also. Guru and saints are the same. With one's entire being, sarvasvesi, he says, with one's entire being, you surrender to the Guru, and that is when the supreme knowledge can be gained. In the next OV, he says, Je jnanacha kuruta teta sevaha daravanta to swadhina kari subata olagoni. This is a very interesting OV, and it's one of my favorite OVs in Jnaneshwari. Here he says, if Guru is the treasure house of knowledge, then the key to the treasure house is seva. He says, you will be able to get all that knowledge, but what you need to do? You need to do seva to the Guru. And how should one do seva to the Guru? It has been explained in so many verses in Bhagavad Gita that you will do without that I-ness and minus that we carry with us. No ego. You surrender your ego and you do it with the bhava of, you don't go with the bhava of I am doing, that I should go away, right? That is the kind of seva we should be doing. That is when Guru will automatically transfer his jnana to us, and there are lots of incidents that we can refer to where the Guru has transferred knowledge to the disciple, right? If all of us have watched, I'm sure all of us have watched Upadesha Ganga, right? Upanishad Ganga, right? In that there is an episode on Giri, who was a disciple of Adi Shankara. There, what does Giri do? He is only doing service, right? He is washing clothes for Shankara. Then he is taking care of his food. He is making sure that he is comfortable. He is putting the bed for him. Though he was a disciple, and from Shankara, what can you expect? You can expect knowledge, right? But I don't think Giri ever looked at it that he will gain. He himself didn't have confidence that he is ready to be able to get that kind of knowledge. He has got some discussions with Padmapada and all of them where he shows that I don't think I'm ready for knowledge. I'm just going to be doing seva for my Guru and my life will go like this, right? You are all very blessed. You're writing Grantha, you're writing everything. Those discussions we have seen and very beautifully shown in the series also. So, how did Giri connect with the Lord? At the body level, he was doing physical service to Shankara. At the mind level, he knew exactly what Shankara was thinking. Before Shankara could tell anything, he would be ready with that work done and completed and standing there in attendance. And at the Jiva level, he was none other than Shankara himself. He knew it. He was connected at the Jiva level with Shankara. He knew nobody other than Shankara, right? So with all this kind of unity with Shankara, this episode happens where Shankara is already there in the class. He wants to be conducting the session and Giri is not there. He's busy washing clothes at the riverbed. And Shankara says, as soon as Giri comes, let us start the class. And one of the disciple sarcastically says that even if Giri comes, what is he going to understand? It's like, teaching a jada, a wall, he says. This kind of hits at Shankara. He realizes that Giri is a very high devotee, maybe much higher than his own other disciples, right, at a devotee level, right, and he is not in the class and people don't even miss him, then with his yoga shakti, he gives him all the knowledge, and that Giri feels when he is washing the clothes, he feels that his Guru is calling him. So he comes running to the ashram, and what comes out of his mouth? Totakashtakam comes out of his mouth. a divine song that he sang in the praise of his guru. So it's just this chutki, you know, just like you click this finger, right? Guru can give you and transform your life. All that he needs to be convinced is you're ready. You're ready to take that knowledge, right? And that we can show only when we are open, when we have no expectations. There should be no expectations from a guru. You don't go to a guru and say, oh, I need this, that's why I've come to you, right? Then it is a barter. You're kind of doing business with him. With a guru, you don't do business. You go to him with openness and complete surrender. You don't have individuality. When you don't have individuality, everything that the guru has is at your disposal. You will be able to take it. And so that's a small story that I wanted to share, which I think will reiterate with all of you. In the next OV, he says, Tari tanu manu jive charanasi lagave ani agarbata karave dasya sakala. I think this is what I explained with the story of Giri also, where he says that with your tanu, mana and jiva, you surrender to the guru, and with the dasya baba. So there is dasa and dasya baba. Dasa is someone who does not live with the guru daily, but he follows every instruction that the guru has given, like we do with our gurus, right? Tejomayananda Swami or Brahmananda Swami, whatever they say is rule for us, right? We follow, we at least try to follow. So that is a dasa baba. Dasya is someone who lives with the guru and does service. They are in constant proximity with the guru. But irrespective of whether it is dasa or dasya, it is the same. There is no difference in the kind of connect that they have with the guru. Last OV, Maga. So, okay, we do all of this. What is the ultimate result of all this? Right? That will be an immediate question in our minds, right? Okay, we do seva, we do, surrendering of ourself to the guru. So, what do we gain by that? Here, Mauli gives a very beautiful OV. He says, Maga apekshite je apule tehi sangati pusile jene antakarana bodale sankalpanaye. When the inner consciousness is fully awakened through seva and surrender, the disciple no longer needs to seek what they desire. The guru, out of grace, bestows what is needed without even being asked. Sankalpanaye. You don't need any sankalpa. You don't need any desire. Guru himself gives it to you. Okay, I want to end this talk with another charitra, a story from the charitra. Kaoba Maharaj. Nobody knows his name. He came to Eknath Maharaj's house as a small boy. And what was his interest in coming to Eknath Maharaj's house? He liked this poli, holige. He liked that. And that was offered to Vittala every day as a Naivedyam. So after the Naivedyam was done, it will be distributed to everybody who is there who has assembled for the puja. So he would come for that small piece of poli. He would come to Eknath Maharaj's house every day and participate in the puja. His mother used to assist Girija Bai, who is Eknath Maharaj's wife, in the kitchen duty. So that is how Gaoba, because he eats poli, he was called Gaoba, Marathi Gaoba, eating. Nobody knows his real name, right? We call him also as Sant Gaoba only. So he started, because he was continuously coming to Eknath Maharaj's house after his mother became old, he automatically took on her role and started assisting Eknath Maharaj, made sure that he was taking care of every need of his. He would fan him, he would make sure that his clothes were washed and pressed, he would make sure that Maharaj ate his food on time, drank milk on time, rested enough. Because Eknath Maharaj was writing lots of granthas. He has written Bhavartha Ramayana, he has written Eknathi Bhagavat, which is a Marathi tika for 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Eknath Maharaj has written a lot. Again, he was also believed to be Vishnucha avatar only, right? So he has written all these translations. And he was very busy. He would participate continuously, he would participate in kirtans and seva. So, Kaoba was this, assistant who would take care of him. Eknath Maharaj had other disciples who he would impart knowledge to them and who would, of course, take on from Eknath Maharaj, right, the thing forward. One day, Eknath Maharaj had completed about 44 chapters of Uttarakandam. He had completed up to 44 chapters of Uttarakandam. There was still some left. At that time, he decided that he wants to leave the mortal body. Then his disciples asked, what will happen to the remaining? He says, yeah, my disciples will write it. So every disciple sitting there immediately thought that, oh, I will be the chosen one. Because they have all been with Maharaj and learnt from him. So they all decided that I will be the chosen one. But one day when they were all seated and assembled in the hall, Kaoba just passed through that hall. Maharaj called Kaoba and he said, Kaoba, I have something that I want to ask you. Will you write the remaining Uttarakandam? Kaoba didn't even blink, didn't even think for a moment. He said, as you wish, Maharaj, I will do it, he said. After he came outside, all these disciples caught hold of him and said, with what confidence did you say this? You know, what do you know? You don't even know what he is doing. You know, that time Kaoba says a very profound response. He says, I am not going to write. My Guru is going to write through me. I just opened my doors and I said, Guru, do whatever you want. This life is for you. You know, and that's what happened. It is recorded that entire Ramayana up to that 44 chapters was written by Eknath Maharaj, consisted of 24,000 OVs. The last bit what Kaoba Maharaj completed, 48,000 OVs, right? And what does that show? That once you open yourself to the Lord or to the Guru, right, that grace just flows in abundance. It's like Ganga and, you know, it just pravahata, right? It just flows in so much abundance that there is no stopping. And what comes out of it is vast and magnificent, unimaginable, right? So with this, I would like to conclude my talk. We can continue talking. Guru के बारे में बात करने के लिए words is not enough. It's just a experience that each of us go through, right, with our own gurus, right? Seeing them and interacting with them and watching how they are behaving, what they are talking, right? We continuously are learning. Every minute we are learning. Even if they are not in our presence, we are still learning because our mind is always there. Our mind is always thinking about our Guru, right? So there's not much I can talk about Guru, but my only thing is we are all blessed today. We are here under the umbrella, huge umbrella of Swami Chinmayananda, our Gurudev, who all gave us this study class. Otherwise, where will we be? After we grow up, what is our source of knowledge, right? He gave us this huge study class where we all, you know, partake and learn from each other. And of course, our guide is, you know, unbelievable, right? Especially in my case, Amma and Krishnan have been under the direct guidance of Swami Chinmayananda. Their experience that they share with us is unbelievable. With all that, I have tried to, you know, bring to this place some learning that I have got and some experience that I have gathered with my own life. And I hope that we will continue this journey with Swami Chinmayananda. And like Swami Chinmayananda says, right, I'm waiting there for all of you, right? One day we will also, you know, transcend this samsara and reach his lotus feet. I will not say I want to reach the lotus feet of Krishna. I want to reach the lotus feet of my Guru, right? He's the only one for us. He's the only one who can redeem us from this samsara, right? So Hari Om, and